What's going on? What's going on? It's your man Mal C219 TV Midwest Connected, man. Cheats for Life, where we talk about all things life. And let's not forget, GoFundMe is not life insurance. And on this episode right here, 219 TV, man, Midwest Connected, we like to bring you the latest topics and trends, through a Midwest lens with a little GI perspective on top. And, usually we talk about, just life and things that's going on. But on this one right here, we want to talk about some money. Let's talk hustlenomics. Now, this is a little segment that we bring in 219 TB Hustlenomics, where we just talk about what's going on, how it's going on. And as y'all know, Trump's first 100 days has been a disaster. You know what I'm saying? And everybody that voted for him, watch what you asked for, because you're getting what you asked for. A lot of y'all didn't know. Everybody's like, he's a businessman. And that he is. So what we about to do, man, let's get right to it. Now, as y'all know, your man added some tariffs. And anybody that know me, I touch on the stock market. We talk about things like that. We finna start getting back in the hustlenomics, talking about ways to get this money, because we finna need a bunch of other ways to get this money, because what my man got going on. So I'm gonna let y'all tap into your president and hear what he had to say on the tariffs. Then we're gonna take it from there.
The tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that, yes, but it would have been tough for a lot of countries who didn't want to do that. I'd like to see the chart if you have it. Could you bring it up, Howard?
That quick timeline, just a lot of this is lingo. So just to get you familiar, when he said full reciprocal, what he means is whatever they charging us, he would charge them. But he know that would be hell on wheels. So he gonna ease it in slowly. But let's proceed.
This is our great Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick. Thanks, Howard. So
everything he do is a show.
If you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes, we didn't.
Now let's pause, look at the chart. So the blue side is what they currently charging us. As you see, you got China, European Union, China 67, European 37, Vietnam 90, Taiwan 64, what's that, Japan 46, South Korea 50, Switzerland, Cambodia 97. And then the yellow side is what we charging them. We're doing 34 to China, 20 to Europe, 32% to Taiwan. I'm gonna let them cook for a second.
Didn't want to bring. It's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. Fortunately, we came armed with a little smaller chart. So it's 67%. So we're going to be.
I like how the rich just laugh while we get broke off. Like that's just funny to them.
Charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be, because we never charge anybody anything. But now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. You think of European Union, very friendly. They rip us off. It's so sad to see. It's so pathetic. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%. So we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were.
Now pause right there. If you're familiar with the market, there's a company named Taiwan Semi. And Taiwan Semi they make the chips. The chips is a real big deal. That was that thing with DeepSeek and the AI, and NVIDIA is a chip company, which is one of our biggest. And once some things happen, NVIDIA drop, your Apples, like your cell phones, everything, cars is moved by those chips. Taiwan Semi is a very important chip company. They get the biggest, they producing a lot of chips, and they got a company that's based in America. So we're gonna be talking about that one for the stocks, a stock to watch for.
everything. We had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei of one of the great companies of the world, actually. They're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that.
We already
But
got one.
64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, very, very tough. Great people. And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there, right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose. Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46% and much higher for certain items like cars, little items like cars. 46%, we're charging them 24%. India, very, very tough. Very, very tough. The prime minister just left. And he's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine, but you're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades. And it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China and charged them. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs. And they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand. And the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have to go through a little tough love, maybe, but they all understand. They're ripping us off, and they understood it. Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. He was a fantastic man. He was unfortunately taken from us, assassination. But I went to him and I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. Trade is not fair. He said, I know that. I know that.
Did he say
he was
that?
a great gentleman. He was a fantastic man, but he understood immediately what I was talking about. I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. He said, I know that. And we worked out a deal, and it would have been a much better deal. But frankly, there were many years left on the deal that was made previous to my getting there. But it was something. If you look at Switzerland, 61% to 31%, Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States.
I understand. Cambodia is one of the countries that make Nikes.
Of America, United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa. We're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. On that, yes, but
South Africa, where Eli's from. Let's not forget that.
Understood immediately what I was talking about. I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. Percent. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States of America. United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%, 30%, and they've got some bad things going on in South Africa. We're paying them billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it. Brazil, 10%, 10%. Bangladesh is 74%. So you see what's going on. Pakistan, 58%. Sri Lanka, 88%. So what we're doing is we're taking not the full, we could take the full 88%. Thanks a lot, Art. He's doing a very good job. How's he doing? All right.
The other is the big one, is the reciprocal tariff executive order that the president just spoke about at length. This is obviously a huge deal, and it's been an honor to be a part of your team getting this ready for you.
Thank you.
Okay, now hold that thought for a second. Now, a lot of those countries that, because I'm an avid MSNBC watcher, and I advise y'all to just, check in, because now I deal with that stock market. Lost a lot in there, but I've learned a lot from my sending myself to the school. So what you can learn from me is what not to do to not lose your bread. You know what I'm saying? And what to kind of look for. And then we each one teach when we help each other, a stock or something that we should look into. So a lot of those stocks, man, those countries, you got to look at it. A lot of those countries, we don't, like, say they got the high tariff prices. but we don't sell them as much as they sell us. So that's something they leave out. So we buy more from China than they buy from us. So they charge us higher rates on tariffs because the few times we send something over there, they basically getting their money back. We give them lower amounts because we constantly buying stuff from them. So of course we had the lowest amounts. Everybody we was lower because we the biggest consumer. Nobody wants to lose America as a consumer. Understand and believe that. You know what I'm saying? We buy the most. It is what it is. But now, what we will say is this: a lot of that stuff you have to look at now. So if you in the market, start breaking down what companies. Because I started looking at what American companies, homegrown American companies, that's where you might want to go. You might want to see what American companies to look into. Like I looked into Lucid, which is Lucid, which is it's an American car company, but it's an EV company. They make EVs. They supposed to be like the Mercedes Benz. They gonna be competition with Tesla. They're gonna be in competition with Tesla. But the biggest hit, y'all notice what he said. Y'all do notice the biggest hit they said was the car industry. Now, mind you, I'm gonna drop this little clip because I like to go get the plumber to do the plumber. So I'm gonna let them break down to y'all and we can talk about it a little bit on where we gonna feel it at the most first. Because we gonna feel it all over, slowly but surely. The tariffs kick in on the 9th, which is next week. So some things, whatever we importing out, bringing in after next week, we got to pay for it. So now let's see what they got to say about the car industry. And this is Ford. Shout to my man C. You know what I'm saying? But now this is Ford. And let's just see how he tried to slick talk us, but they finna tell us how this really gonna hit us.
President Trump's auto tariffs are here, and that means
a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff.
But no car, not even a US-built Ford F-150, is 100% US made. Just look inside.
It's made up of thousands and thousands of parts. Those parts come from over 24 different countries.
Countries like Mexico, Canada, Romania. Trump wants these parts to say made in the US. But moving all of this is not so simple.
To lift and shift that whole thing, that's kind of like saying, pick up the state of Maine and move it over to Wyoming. Could you do it? I suppose you could, but man, it would be tough duty.
So let's break it down to understand what Trump is trying to do with a slew of new tariffs and why automakers are warning it could backfire. This chart shows where cars sold in the US are coming from. All of these cars now face that 25% auto tariff. But this 53% of US-made cars is also affected by that tariff.
Now, when you see all the countries, you see US, Mexico, Korea, Japan, Canada, rest of the world. Now, it says US sold cars. Now, we get 53% of that. But what they saying about the US car companies is, yeah, we make the cars here, but we ordering the parts from everywhere else. So a lot of the parts that's used in these cars come from foreign countries. They come from Mexico. They come from here. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you might want to check U.S. steel too, because they even put the tax on Canada and steel coming in. So which means the steel companies within America, their orders may go up. So my guys at U.S. Steel, that may do something for y'all Cleveland Cliffs too. But so just look right there. So I'm gonna let them cook right quick, and we're gonna come back.
Tariff because of all of those foreign parts.
Some of the major components, this is for the Ford F-150. They have an alternator, create current. It's from Mexico. We have half shafts. These deliver torque to the wheels from the driveline. They're from Canada. We have tires, of course, 5 of them. These come from Korea. Of course, you have to have wheels. In this case, a styled tractive wheels. These all come from Mexico.
Those tires from South Korea would face that auto tariff and any reciprocal or universal tariff placed on the country. Those parts from Canada and Mexico, well, that's where it gets more complicated. Eventually, they would face that auto tariff, any reciprocal or universal tariff, and an additional Mexico-Canada tariff. But the White House said parts compliant with the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Trade Agreement, or USMCA, remain tariff-free until there is a process to apply tariffs to their non-U.S. content. And for some parts, like a transmission, there will be a lot of cost.
So as of right now, it's a hole, so to speak, with Mexico and Canada till they get some things straightened out. But he trying to tax them too, because they so close and we do so much dealing with them. They say it's supposed to be tariff-free on certain stuff, but that's the part that it's a little bit above our pay grade.
Content to consider.
When you realize what goes into an automatic transmission, that's what this is. And so you can see this plethora of parts, gears and seals, springs, fasteners, valves, and shafts, all these different parts. They can come from different suppliers, and those suppliers can be located pretty much anywhere in the world.
Take a look at this map showing how Canadian manufacturer Linamar creates transmissions for the U.S. market today. It takes 7 border crossings before that part is in a car being sold in the U.S. These 3 crossings into the U.S. would eventually face Trump's tariffs. And even if the manufacturing of all of this was moved into the U.S., this part, the raw steel, would still be subject to Trump's 25% tariff on imported steel and aluminum.
This is going to be disruptive on day one. It's going to increase the cost of doing business.
The total amount depends on the vehicle. A Cox Automotive estimate shows a car made in the U.S. would incur $3,000 in costs from the Canada-Mexico tariffs, plus another $3,000 from the tariffs on foreign-made auto parts. Then research shows an added $400 for the steel and aluminum tariffs, and more for any reciprocal or universal tariff.
So at the end of the day, that's $6,500, man. That could be put on top of a car. Mostly they talking about new cars. Used cars, it is what it is. They just which some of those prices might go up on used cars if they slow down the production of new cars because they getting taxed to make them. There that go.
Have you heard any concerns from the automakers, though, about the tariffs on parts that will go into effect over the coming weeks, about what that's going to mean for the price of
Well, I gave them a
American-made
big
cars?
break for a month. I didn't charge them anything, for a big month, for that first month. And they brought a lot of material into this country because they could bring it in without tariff.
So he's saying he gave them a chance, like they knew this was coming. I told them to order up and stock up. If they didn't, oh well.
But eventually, added production costs could change what cars buyers see on dealer lots.
You could see a stop in production of a number of vehicles, some of which are very important to some of the automakers.
Trump's goal, however, is to pressure automakers to make
They ain't gonna stop that F-150 though. The Mexicans love that.
them in the U.S. instead.
Your brothers too though.
This is going to lead to the construction of a lot of plants.
And the White House said the duties on Canada and Mexico are also meant to disrupt the drug trade.
We've lost millions of people due to fentanyl. It comes mostly from China, but it comes through Mexico and it comes through Canada.
I think they use the fentanyl as an excuse, man. Drugs been coming into here forever. So now you're using this as what the hell tariffs on China got to do with fentanyl coming across the Mexican border? But anyway.
The trade group representing Ford, GM, and Stellantis said it's critical that tariffs are done in a way that preserves the competitiveness of the North American auto sector. North American is the key there. Because of the Trump-negotiated USMCA and NAFTA before it, automakers have essentially viewed these countries as borderless.
We have really built the industry around that free trade zone that's existed for so long.
Ever wondered what your home looks like from space? Enter your address and get a 360-degree satellite view of your home.
It's why Mexico and Canada exported about $75 billion in passenger cars and more than $100 billion in auto parts to the U.S. last year. So shrinking supply chains to just the U.S.?
If you had to move production of a vehicle or even a complex system like an engine, a transmission, an axle.
Hold on.
In auto parts to the U.S. last year. So shrinking supply borderless.
We have really built the industry around.
I want to run that back just to give y'all a thorough. Now look at these numbers they say about this, right? Just to give y'all an idea how we finna get hit.
That free trade zone that's existed for so long.
It's why Mexico and Canada exported about $75 billion in passenger cars and more than $100 billion in auto parts to the US.
76 billion in cars and 102 billion in parts came from Canada and Mexico. So now he finna slap that tariff on them. So when they try to send them parts over, he finna put a basically what he say 20 something on them and 20. I'm gonna go back to the chart, but whatever they say on the chart, he finna hit them with that on that. So he gonna put that on top of that 76 billion and that 102. So which means if it costs those companies now the parts they gotta order, if they gotta pay more instead of 19 billion, they got to pay 20 and 30 billion, 25 billion to send it over. Who you think gonna pay for that? It costs more to make the cars, and we getting into AI and all of this. So what that mean? We might have to cut back labor costs. Labor meaning jobs. Let's cook.
Last year. So shrinking supply chains to just the US.
If you had to move production of a vehicle or even a complex system like an engine, a transmission, an axle, and you're making that in Canada or you're making that in Mexico and you just want to move the plant, that could be years.
Analysts say even shifting a foreign-made part to a US supplier can take months.
We have well-established, very detailed testing
Backing up the supply chain.
plans for every component on a vehicle. And we don't get to skip those just because we might want to, or it might be easy, right? Because it's a safety and quality issue. It costs money and it costs lives when we get those things wrong.
So either choice, moving production or facing the tariffs, come with added costs, some of which economists say will be passed on to consumers. That will push up already elevated car prices. This could then tamp down demand and slow production.
If there's less production, there'll be less demand for workers in the North American auto.
Could then tamp down demand and slow.
Now, peep this right quick. They say since 2019, 33% increase on cars, average cars. Now, man, these are new car prices. So the average new car is up to 44 grand, 45, you might as well say. Average new car. That ain't, we talking Hyundais, Kias, you feel me, which all those gonna go up. And any of those plastics in the States might shut down.
Low production.
If there's less production, there'll be less demand for workers in the North American auto industry. Even before you get the cut in profitability, there'll probably be a push for more labor-saving investment in U.S. production to try to compensate for the increased costs elsewhere in the production process.
That labor-saving investment, analysts say, will come in the form of automation.
When you move production to the U.S., you do it, because you need to be close, but it doesn't necessarily bring a lot of jobs with it. It brings a lot of automation.
But the United Auto Workers Union applauded Trump's tariff on foreign autos, adding,
a lot of automation, artificial intelligence. I'm just saying, them two go together now.
It's now on the automakers to bring back good union jobs to the U.S. To make investments months or years into the future, automakers need
certainty and stability. Just, they want it to be clear what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and why it's going to happen.
But automakers are still waiting for clarity on the extent and application of the various tariffs, especially after the pause and then temporary exemption from the Mexico-Canada tariffs.
The uncertainty of whether and how long these tariffs will stick around is creating real dollars waste in terms of warehousing and trucking, and call it soft waste, wasted time, wasted energy, wasted attention that could be better deployed building and designing the next vehicle, the next system.
That time spent debating if this alternator should continue to come from Mexico or this crossbeam from Canada is to some a distraction from the larger disruptors in the industry, namely the fast-moving Chinese competition. China is now the world's largest vehicle exporter.
Very tumultuous time in the industry.
So China's sending in the most cars right now. Toyota, you feel me? What else China we got? Toyota. I don't know about Kia. If that, I don't know if Hyundai. I don't know if those is China. But man, what else we got besides Toyota? Drop some in the comments. But they busting up. They got that on lock now.
For sure. Things are changing faster than they ever did before. And at the end of the day, you have to remember, it's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. And so whatever you are, don't be the slowest. Move quickly.
So now with that being said, what y'all think about that? Now there it is. Auto industry about to get hit first. That's coming. You feel what I'm saying, dog? That's coming. They finna hit the auto industry hard. So now what that says is, and what they talking about with him, mind you, he's talking over time. Now check the timeline. If you heard, they said a lot of this stuff gonna take years to get in place. He trying to force people hand and make them open more companies over in the U.S., which is a good thing for us. But by the time it happened, it'll be time for him to leave. So if that's from the, if dude, how he going, when it's time for him to go, that's on the next man. And how does who's to say they ain't gonna overturn a lot of what he did? So who gets left in lingo? Who always get left holding the bag? Who always the ones gonna be out here scrambling? You feel what I'm saying? Scrambling. I mean, we gonna be out here scrambling. Love it when you're scraping and scrambling, Daddy. That's how he finna have us, man. He finna have us scraping and scrambling. Now, real quick, I watched CNBC. Let's just hear what Wall Street had to say about this situation, man. I want to hear what. Hold on, fair use. Fair use, fair use. Now I want to hear what Wall Street got to say about this situation because they definitely, now anybody that watch MSNBC, Fast Money, all that, I advise y'all check that out if you're into the market. But and let's see what Wall Street, the people that's on Wall Street every day, what they got to say about you, man, and his antics.
At a list of tariffs. So what do we make of it? We saw the market reaction. No surprise, lower in the after hours so far.
No surprise. Now the day actually sort of made sense to me. Market route. We talked about this sort of yesterday. Personally, I thought there'd be sort of a pullback, not as draconian, not as robust. The market would like that. We would continue to rally. The bond market would sell off. To a certain extent, we saw that during the day. Obviously, a lot of things have been reversed now. So what do you try to make of this? Well, Treasury Secretary Bessent and President Trump have asked for lower rates in terms of 10-year. Announcement like this might get them to lower rates. The question is, at what cost? That 5,500 level in the S&P.
Now, when they say lower rates, they want to lower rates on the 10-year Treasury. Now, the Treasury, that's the bond. That's not a stock. Let's not forget it's the stock market. You got stocks and bonds. So the Treasury is, and sometimes the way it works, when bonds are going up and in the green, stocks are going down. So when people buy more bonds, now, mind you, the 10-year and the Treasury bonds, when America say we in debt, all of the money we got for stimulus, when America bought all that money, that's where they took it from. We borrowed money from ourselves. Because I always thought if we print money, how the hell we in debt? So once I start looking into this thing and kind of, sending myself to this stock market school, I realized that Treasury bonds is what the government borrows from. So say if you own a 10-year bond, right? And that bond is at whatever price, you know what I'm saying? And in 10 years, bonds roll slow. They don't have as much volatility as stocks. So the bonds is like slow and steady. So bonds is like when you got a $500 bond. Let's just say we just using numbers. You say you got a $500 bond that matures in 10 years. You pay 150 for it now. 10 years is worth 500. So if it's 1 million people with those, America borrows that $1 million. So before that 10 years up, they got to put that $1 million back in there, which is what they had to do with the corona money. But anyway, I'm gonna let them cook.
Clearly, it's going to start to come into play again. But, secretly, I wonder myself, have deals already been in place, despite what they say about we're not going to negotiate, you can't call us, or things in place where a week or so from now, there's countries at the White House or the Rose Garden that are acquiescing, and there's some sort of detente in terms of what's going on. So maybe this is sort of act 2 or 3 in a 5-act play.
Yeah, I think the debate, and a lot of folks have been talking about this, is this policy or is it politics, right? And so at the end of the day, it's kind of what Guy's just talking about is like, are they going to take the calls, to your question? Are they looking to do deals? And, when I think about how targeted some of these tariffs are and how basically whatever they come back with, these countries that are being targeted, a lot of these are really in Trump country. If you think about it, they're in red states. You think about what happened with farmers going back to 2018, the trade war. I mean, they collected tariffs. They collected tens of billions of dollars in tariffs from farmers. And then
Indiana's a red state. Wisconsin's a red state.
You know what they ended up doing? They ended up giving it back to them in relief, So you're going to do that to the auto workers in Michigan. I mean, the list goes on and on. So at the end of the day, I'm probably more in Guy's camp that, they're talking a tough game here. I think they probably want.
Now looking for $10 a share, which would be a good investment. Now Ford got electric cars. They're an American company. They say buy American. So you're looking for, you look at GM, you just saw right there. Let me just kind of show y'all right there. Y'all just look. GM is $47 a share. Each time you buy a share, you want to at least buy 100 to make it something. So you'd be looking at what, 4,000 right there. You know what I'm saying? But it'd be cheaper to get shares of
Today, I'm probably more in Guy's camp that, they're talking a tough game here. I think they probably want to do some deals. A lot of these countries are going to come to the table and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And they probably won't end up doing them, So at the end of the day, I think it's one of those things where maybe they're focused on the yield. I think they're going to have to get focused on the stock market pretty soon.
We are talking about certainty and whether or not we have any more certainty. As Megan had mentioned, even though we know these country-specific and the baseline tariff regime that we will operate in, we don't know the sector-specific ones, such as on pharma, which will face tremendous tariffs because many of the raw materials.
Now, when they say sector-specific, what they mean is you got different sectors in the stock market. You got your industrial sector, your medical sector, your tech sector, your automotive, you got your food and agriculture. So you got different sectors. So sometimes when you think the market going down, what's happening is money is shifting. When people hear shit like this, they start taking money out of one thing, putting it into something else. So that's, the market just crazy right now. And that's where it's at. It's all up and down.
Come from China. We won't know semiconductors, which also will probably face some pretty stiff tariffs.
True.
But we do know for autos, we saw a turnaround in the after-hour session somewhat. GM was down as much as 3%. It's now down 1%. You're pointing out also the Mexican peso.
Yes, and that was sort of, I actually rallied a little bit. I don't know where it is right this minute, but
You heard they say GM was down 3, it's down 1, which meaning it's down, it's just going up. You know what I mean? A little bit's going up.
I think, do we have certainty, not on the things that you said?
Yeah.
Do we have certainty on what the worst case scenario is? I think we do.
Mind you, these is escalades. So just look at it like that. When I think GM, I think escalades. So the price of escalades is going, but by escalades, GM being an American car company, you might see more caddies on the street now.
I think this is the biggest tariffs we would see. I agree with both Guy and Sunshine Dan that it is very.
Now, the Mexican pesos, dollars, that's in the future market. That's a whole nother deal. We talk about that another time.
Very possible and probably more than 50% likely that we do see some.
But futures is a sector, so that's why.
Movement there. It's interesting after the first round of tariffs going years back, how there was such a push to leave China manufacturing, go elsewhere, go to Vietnam, go to Thailand. Well, okay, so that's sort of been thrown into flux. I think, you're right to see the
Well, she got that old ass ThinkPad computer, though, all that money they make.
10-year, could the 10-year come down and inflation go up? Both of those things seem likely. So that's sort of interesting. And I think, so who does it benefit? I think it benefits a Walmart over a Target, but doesn't absolutely benefit either of them. So
y'all see that. Nike $60, bro. Nike was like 70. Nike had went up to like $100-something. Slowly but surely is going back down. We talking about Jordans, bro.
So if you've got power, you're going to be relatively better off, but not better off than you were yesterday.
I'm not the death statesman, so me trying to parse whether this is going to be policy or politics, as Dan stated, I just think for me it's probably over my head and
me too, brother.
Outside of my level of interest. What I am concerned about is how this is likely going to affect the stock market. And
now Lululemon, everybody know they like essentials. They like a sweatsuit. They make like clothes and sweater to the type. But a lot of rich people buy Lululemon. That's like it's an essential style. You know, they sweatsuits, plain workout gear. But you know, they stock was as you can see, it's pretty high. But you see it's then dropped $26 in one day.
And what is Trump's willingness to affect the stock market? And I think here we have seen that this is probably worse than the worst case that was modeled in. And so even if we do start to see some reprieve from what the levels that have been indicated right now, what is likely going to be the stock market response? I think
the S&P 500, that's a stock that you can gauge, so to speak. It used to be a big gauge, but now it's just so crazy. But S&P is like an ETF, and a lot of your ETFs is like mutual funds, so to speak. It's a gang of stocks. Instead of you just going with one stock, an ETF got multiple stocks. So just say it's a lot of tech stocks in the S&P, Tesla in the S&P. So when you take a look at the S&P, see what stocks they hold. So when the S&P dropping as a whole, that means a lot of the stocks within the S&P, their price is going down in that moment.
Any presidential put, I think you might at least want to rethink whether that is actually in play. And if you are, in fact, getting a lower 10-year yield or 7 to 10-year yield because of lower growth expectations, I think you also want to think about how we're arriving at said destination point. I will say, yes, across the board, you've got a mix. We thought perhaps maybe we're going to get one sweeping tariff level, or perhaps you're going to get, but we've gotten a mixture of both, which I do think, I do think my other panelists are making a strong point in terms of them kind of kitchen sinking it. However, given his reluctance
and you see Tesla
to pull back, despite what we have,
270. Tesla was just at 280. Is at 3 something. Tesla might not drop too much, but it's a lot of money. So Tesla's a stock to watch closely. Even though they tripping on him, they still making money off that stock, but it just lost $12 after hours because it was up all day. Then once he made this news, because the market itself closes at like 3:30. Big money, they still stay in there for a couple hours after hours. And it dropped after that, which they prepared themselves for that because they knew he was going to talk crazy.
Seen in a weaker stock market tells me that perhaps he is a bit more emboldened than we're giving credit for being.
So what y'all think about that, man? What y'all think about that, man? You know what I'm saying? Because now what's going on is this, bro. What's going on is this, man. So what we gonna do is this right here. Real quick. I want to show y'all something real quick. Real fast. I want to show y'all something real quick. Now here you have Tesla, right? Now, as y'all see, Tesla's what? 267, right? Now, I'm gonna show y'all this on the screen. Now, you see, if you can see here, we can go all the way to, let me see. It dropped in this one day. You feel what I'm saying? It dropped $15 once he made this announcement. You see, when they was just talking, it said 270. You see right here where it say overnight? Tesla dropped $15 overnight so far. So now what you're looking at is the price on that. And sometimes you go over time, just look at it. When you look at, okay, let's just say in the last week leading up to this. See what I'm saying? It was 270, you know what I'm saying, on the 27th. So you go today, man, went up 275, none of that, then bam, let's say you get this news, which was today. Now see right here, it was up all through the day. 7 o'clock a.m. April 2nd. Market open at 8. Boom. When the market opened at 9 o'clock, boom, 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 boom. It shot up to 283. It was up $12 on the day. You see that, right? It was up $12 on the day at this point when it shot to 283. As you can see, you know, when you look over here, you see it was up to $12 a day. That was at 1 o'clock. 4 o'clock, after the market closed, look what happened. Dipped like a crib. Wow. It dropped down. That same $12 it was up, it dropped $11. Now sideways. So whatever money was made right in that moment was just lost right in that hour. This is why you have to really be abreast of what you're doing. When you know, now if you long-term holding, you just look at that, hold your breath, and hope it get greater later, you know, because when you long-term, you're doing it for at least 3 to 10. Now, what I do is I trade options real quick. I'm going to just hit this right quick just to show you a real quick, and we're going to get back. This is an option chain. Now, calls, options is like, let's look at it like this. Options is like, let me just say this is the prize picks of the stock market. You pick, it's like over and unders. Let's just say you look at the date, which is April the 4th, which is tomorrow. So let's just say if tomorrow you felt like the stock was going to go up. You see it's 267. Let's just say if you felt the stock was going to go up to 267.50, it's 267.43. If you think it's going to go to 270, you see right here, this is what you're going to pay. So you say you want to buy that option. Now, just to show you, it will cost you $16.63 to hold that option till tomorrow because it expires tomorrow. When you get an option is not like buying a stock, you're renting it. So it's like you renting this to the market, but you rent them 100 shares at a time. Each time you do this, you're doing 100 shares. So let's just say that's 16, but just to show you, because it's a moving stock, you see what that really, the estimated cost of that is $1,600 is what you would pay for it to see if it's going to go to 270. You're going to pay $1,600. That boom, let's just say in the morning, it shoot up to 270. That's a $3 difference. All right, you make $300-400 off that right quick in the morning. Now, depending on where, now let's just say don't want to be as risky, so you want to wait an extra week. Say I want to hold it till next Friday. Now you see that same 270 for next Friday, as you can see what that's going to be. That same 270 for next Friday will cost you a little bit more, $21.30 is what it'll cost you, $2,130. If you want to say, okay, let me see if it'll make it to 270 within a week. More time you give yourself, the more it costs you. But you see the difference, so you're gonna make a little more money off of that. And if it make that jump tomorrow, your 21 could go to whatever. If it exceeds past that, now let's just say you want to be on the safe side, right? And be like, I don't want to spend that much. I only want to spend, say you only want to spend $150. So you see this 149, now you hit that, that's $150. But that's saying that you giving the stock till that 11th to go to $332. That's basically options. Puts is the same thing. Call means going up. Put me that you basically betting that it'll go down. I hate to use betting because you investing, but this is called trading. You have to learn first when you get into the market. Are you a trader or an investor? I learned the hard way. I was a trader. Trading is more risky and it's more expensive. I learned that the hard way too. Made a lot, lost a lot, didn't get the, I seen a lot, but didn't get to manage it right and end up losing a lot because didn't really know the game. And you got personal things going on. Your focus is off. So you got to learn. But now, just to give y'all a quick, we're going to get back to all that. We're going to get back to all that. So all I want to do is just get that, kind of give y'all a little bit of sauce. And just let me know what y'all think, man. You know, we just tapped into a little something right quick. You know, this is Hustlenomics, man. And from here, you know, we're going to drop some of these videos sometime where we talking about this economy, things we need to do. If you got some ways you making money out there, you got something you doing to make some money, man, let's tap in. Let us know. Each one teach one, man. I'm going to share what I know. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully my losses become your gain. You know what I'm saying? Get paid off of my pain. But you see what your man doing. Y'all see where it's going. So get ready to buy them whips and all that. Temu, we finna get our head bust for that Temu. So y'all better order up this week because they finna put the slap on China. Temu going up, bruh. It is what it is. We out.